There we go. Perfect. So everyone should be able to see my presentation up on the screen, but welcome again. Thank you for joining us for this session this evening. I, again, have turned off cameras and mics just so we can focus that attention on our esteemed panelists for the event. And if you haven't already, share your name, where you're signing in from, and your major or degree in the chat box. We love that conversation there. My name is Dana McGrath. I am an employer relations partner with the SNHU Career Services team. I am joined this evening by my employer relations colleague, Mark Schapper, who will assist with some of our moderated questions to get started. And then, of course, our SNHU career advisor, Jennifer Langley, who will be engaging with you all in the chat. We are excited to kick off this event, SNHU Alumni Recruiting Business Students. First, it's important for us to let you know your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It's our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation's design or delivery that present barriers to accessibility, please notify. Online students can access the Online Accessibility Center by emailing oac@snhu.edu or call 866-305-9430. Campus students that may be in attendance can reach the Campus Accessibility Center by emailing cac@snhu.edu or call 603-644-3118. And any staff or faculty of SNHU that are in attendance can reach the Human Resource Office by emailing hr@snhu.edu. And of course, keep in mind the SNHU Career Services is a lifetime benefit that's included in your SNHU journey from that first class that you start all the way to 30, 40 years past graduation as alumni. Our team provides career support and guidance and resume reviews, mock interview practice, job and internship search techniques, and so much more. Feel free to reach out to cocecareer@snhu.edu or call 888-672-1458 if you'd like to schedule time with an SNHU career advisor. We also encourage you to explore the Handshake career platform. All SNHU students have access to that for networking and searching job opportunities, as well as flexing your networking skills with any of the social networks listed to connect with fellow SNHU students and alumni nationwide. For our agenda today, first we're going to introduce our panelists, and Mark is going to take care of that. Then we'll have a couple of other starter questions, and then again, we'll open it up to student Q&A, so keep those questions coming in the chat. Jen Langley will be gathering up all of those questions, and we'll get to as many as we possibly can at the end of the session. And with that, I'd like to welcome our panelists who volunteered their time tonight as SNHU alumni to their alma mater. And we're super excited to hear about your professional journeys, along with tips and advice for our attendees to be prospective applicants for your respective organizations. So Mark, please take the honor of introducing our panelists.
I will do that. And we will start with Nicole Eddy. Nicole joins us from Allstate, where she's a member of the talent acquisition team. You can read more about Nicole on the slide. I'm not going to read that to you. So she's an HR senior consultant. And Nicole, thank you so much for joining us. I had the pleasure of talking to Nicole about a week and a half ago for the first time, and she was kind enough to give up some of her time this evening to join us. And we're going to kick it off with you, Nicole. So here's your question. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Could you tell us about your experience as a Southern New Hampshire University business student so far? Nicole is maybe two or three courses from the finish line. Is that correct?
We're calling it a course and a half at this point.
A course and a half, even better. Okay. So could you tell us about your experience as a Southern New Hampshire University business student and how it's prepared you for your current role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have determined that going to school before you start your career and going to school during your career are two different things. And I'm glad that I chose to go through this process during my career because I've been able to use a lot of real life situations in my courses And it also kind of gears toward the things that I'm doing currently. So that's a lot of fun. Currently doing some organizational changes in the class right now, which Allstate is going through a lot of those. New HR, CRMs and things like that, new processes, new computer systems. So I'm sure my fellow recruiters can understand those kind of changes coming down the pike. So it's really just helped me with discussion boards, communicating to the business, even the papers that I have to write, just being able to look up more information on what I'm trying to. Artificial intelligence is a huge thing right now. So going through that and using that for my papers and stuff. So that's really has helped me continue my career as well.
Thank you, Nicole. That it's so interesting when you said it's different going to school before you begin a professional career as opposed to during it. And I thought you were going to say, oh, I wish I got it out of the way earlier, but it's just the opposite. Taking courses when you're in a professional job helps to make it more real, more applicable. You can use examples from the workplace. So that's really cool. I've certainly heard that before, and it's a good reminder to have you tell us. So thank you for sharing that. And I think Dana, were you going to lay out a little trivia question for the folks here?
Yep, I put it in. We got some answers. So the Allstate slogan is "You're in good hands." So great to everyone that answered that. Thank you.
All right. So our next guest tonight is Olivia Jandal. Olivia is a industrial psychology alum. She has a degree in industrial psychology, and she also has a graduate degree in HR management. Thank you for being with us, Olivia. Would you tell
Absolutely.
us about your experience as a SNHU business student, and how did it help prepare you for your current role?
Absolutely. So when I was in SNHU, I remember there were a couple of times where I had conversations with my advisor, and I remember thinking, the information that I'm learning in these classes is, so advanced and so strategic. I would sometimes wonder, am I really going to get a chance to use it in my HR career? I think of these courses as being for, the person at the top of the organization, and I've really found just the opposite, and that's been so rewarding. And in really, my day-to-day interactions with all of the departments across Penske that I work in, I'm able to use, kind of that strategic thinking, that higher level management style approach to problem solving, to really recruiting and sourcing talent in a meaningful way that's going to help the organization reach its goals. So I'm glad that the material that we covered was, like I said, so theoretical in nature. I think that's really helped to make me a better business partner and advance my career in talent acquisition.
Again, a great insight. Thank you, Olivia. Just even if you're not a top level executive, understanding the business strategy is tremendously helpful, just in terms of your day to day, and also impressing the higher ups as well.
Absolutely.
And I think we have another trivia question, Dana, right?
Yeah, I've just asked how many Penske locations are there worldwide, and the answer was B. There are over 3,200 per the Penske website, and that's worldwide. So great job to anyone who answered B, and thank you so much, Olivia, for your introduction.
Okay. Next up, we have Jess Gwinnett. And Jess is a lead business talent partner with Samsara, I think, right? Maybe it depends on where you live in the country. I think you're muted, Jess. So
Can y'all hear me?
now we can. Yeah, perfect.
Forgive me, I'm a Zoom gal, so I did not realize that I was sitting over here talking to myself. So I apologize. And it is
No.
Sam.
Okay, thank you. So I have the same question for you as a SNHU business student. Well, slightly different in marketing, right? That was your that is or was your degree.
Yep.
Okay. How has it helped prepare you for your current role?
I think some of the best experiences that I had were from my professors at Southern New Hampshire University. I'm not sure if anyone has had Dr. Spiro or Dr. Jessica Rogers, but I had Dr. Spiro for in-person learning when I attended the classes at the actual New Hampshire location, and then I had Dr. Jessica Rogers for my online master's degree. They are some of the smartest women that I have ever had the pleasure of working with. And they taught me how to take what I was learning in my class, in the classroom, whether the classroom be online or in person, and actually implement that into the way of business life. And, Dr. Spiro, for example, she would never let us say that I go to SNHU. She goes, no, you go to Southern New Hampshire University. Little things like that, though, about just really being more poised, more polished, more professional, using those in the classroom learnings and then, executing on them in the actual business environment. So I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away.
Wow, that's great. A call out to a couple of our faculty. Don't know if they're here tonight, but I'm sure if they are, they appreciate their being acknowledged publicly. And that you do make a good point that our professors are pretty much all practitioners. They're not just theoretical academics who've never applied what they teach. They most of them during the day work and do the kind of work that they're teaching students. So that's great. That's wonderful that you had two exceptional faculty members.
That's the coolest part. It's bringing the teachings into real world learning, and they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk as well.
Yeah, and probably have some great stories and examples, right?
I do.
Yeah. So I'm not watching the chat so closely, but I'm guessing there was another trivia question in there, Dana.
Yep, just that the corporate headquarters of Samsara is San Francisco, California. So great job to those who answered.
And last but not least, Khadijah Washington. And let's see, we have Khadijah's a manager of talent acquisition for Southwest. And you'll see her in a minute. She's actually sitting in an airplane, I think. I'm not sure. But at any rate, Khadijah, could you share your experience as a business student? How did it help to prepare you for your role with Southwest?
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, everyone, I'm Khadijah Washington.
Khadijah, apologies.
It's okay. Super excited to be here with you all today. So, I'm going to piggyback off of Olivia and Nicole and their responses because I agree, Nicole. I think going, even though it was tough, going to school while working really did help me kind of apply the information that I was learning. And then, Olivia, I think for me, what I'll say is, kind of piggybacking off your point, it gave me the language that I needed to have to speak to my customers. So, we're on the people side of the house. And so sometimes you think, oh, I don't need to understand finance or I don't need to understand, operations or anything. But you really do, because, when you're in a support function, those are the groups that you're going to actually be supporting, and you need to understand their business. You need to understand the language that they're using. And so I think my time at Southern New Hampshire really gave me exposure to concepts that maybe I hadn't really thought about before or had much experience in. And so it didn't make me an expert, but it gave me enough information that I was able to intelligently have those conversations with my customers, which ultimately allowed them to trust me a little bit more when it came to supporting them and understanding their business. So I think that's really what I got from it, and definitely piggybacked off of everything that the other panelists said.
That's a great point, Khadijah. Even if you're not an accountant or a financial analyst, if you understand a little bit, it's going to go a long way to building confidence in your internal partners, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they appreciate you trying to learn, even though you are not going to be the expert in the room. Just appreciating the fact that you want to learn their business. That's really where you kind of gain that trust and build those relationships with them. So.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Great. Everybody, great. I read the question like, wow, this is a hard question to kind of come up with something, but y'all really knocked it out of the ballpark with some great insights. So thank you so much. And at this point, I think I'm turning it back to you, Dana.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mark. And to wrap up our little employer trivia as well, and thank you so much, Khadija, for sharing that fantastic insight. And the trivia question for Southwest Airlines was, what is the stock market ticker symbol? And of course, it's LUV, or love, right? With that nice heart behind you, Khadija.
Yes, absolutely. Can y'all see it?
Fantastic. So thank you again, everyone, for your introductions and for sharing all of your experience with us. I do have a couple more just starter questions that I'd love to have you share. So, Khadija, if we can start off, since you were just chatting, we'll keep you chatting. So,
Sure.
if you could share, diving deeper into your career journey, could you share an example of maybe a career challenge you may have overcome and any specific methods or resources you used to overcome that challenge?
Yeah. So when I started, if I talk specifically about Southwest, when I started Southwest, I started 2 months before the pandemic hit and everything shut down. So that has been a wild journey. But what I will say, in addition to that, is that moving into a new industry, especially an industry as niche as aviation, I don't know any pilots. I don't know any flight attendants. I've never experienced, I had no experience with aviation at all. And it's a very tight-knit community. A lot of people that are in aviation are second and third generation aviators. And so when I got to Southwest, I did not know what anybody was talking about for like the first 6 months of my time there. And so I would say, had quite the experience coming to Southwest through the pandemic and trying to learn, but our opportunities being a little limited just because we weren't flying at the time. But I will tell you that it gave me a lot of time to really build strong relationships with people outside of my department. And I think that's the way that I overcome not knowing what anybody was talking about. I mean, we have a billion acronyms at Southwest. Everybody, they had so much experience in aviation, and then me trying to come in and understand what they were talking about, I just was lost. So I think how I overcame that was really being strategic about building those relationships, going and sitting with my customers for days and just watching what they do and trying to understand their business. My managing director, when I applied for the job and had my interview, he told me in the first 90 days that he's not going to care about what I learn. He's going to come back and ask me who I've built relationships with. And that's always stuck with me throughout my career at Southwest is, the strength of really kind of being influential and, learning the business is really the strength of your relationships. And so I try to keep that at front of mind and always build really strong relationships with the people that I meet, because we're not all experts on everything. And, those relationships are going to help you along the way.
I love that, and kind of maintaining not only as your job searching that network of people, but
Mhm.
building your network internally, because you never
Yeah.
know who you're going to learn from or what pathways could be introduced to you. So I love
Yeah,
that
for
insight.
sure. Yeah,
Thank you so
or who you
much.
could help as well. So it's
Exactly.
important
From your own
to,
knowledge.
yeah, to think of not just what you can get from people, but also what you can give as well.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Wonderful. And Nicole, as far as kind of working while finishing your degree, I'm sure many of our attendees are familiar with that, in addition to our panelists. But tell us a little bit about a challenge you may have overcome in your career and what methods you've used to overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'd like to be thankful that we're not the only ones that use lots of acronyms, because Allstate's known for that as well. But I would say one of the most recent challenges I had is we decided to change some business. As everyone's saying, as a recruiter, you learn the different businesses all over. So we decided to combine one of the business units with ours, and it was a whole new thing for all of the recruiters on my team. So I got to be the guinea pig and learn that process and learn that business and figuring all of that out. And it was nice to be able to learn something new, meet new people. And then we were able to figure out the process. I was able to train that process to the other recruiters that were going to be handling that. And then we were able to go ahead and change those processes to help streamline things too. So I think that was that was one of the best learning tools, development. I also don't look at things as challenges. I look at them as learning development opportunities. It helps just continue your career everywhere. So that was probably my biggest challenge that I had. But I had a lot of fun with it. And today I sit on a weekly meeting with them, and I represent the recruiting team in that business. And we just have a great partnership through it. So it was good.
That's amazing. And that lifelong learning aspect where, you're still working on your degree, but even your career, there's always something to learn, as you're going through. So always being open to that new knowledge is key, and you really can build partnerships and just develop yourself that way. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And Jess, I saw you mention in the chat that you're quite familiar with acronyms, so I'll go ahead and jump over to you if you want to share, just about Samsara and any career challenges that you've had, even before your role there, and how you overcame that.
Sure. To be totally honest, in all of my positions, we've been very acronym heavy. So we always have to learn the new lingo as you're getting up to speed and you're onboarding and whatnot. So just know nobody's alone with that. We all do it. I would say probably one of the bigger challenges that I faced was, I would say, being taken seriously. Like sometimes with working, I started my career with an executive search, and executive search is, C-suite hiring, and I worked on the CFO and board practices for our consumer markets team. And I was more junior in my career. And despite the fact that, I had just finished my MS in marketing and I had some really great trainings and I was ready to go, I often got looked at as, almost like a young girl, like who, she's young, what does she know and whatnot. And that was something that was very challenging at the time. I would get nervous to speak in meetings. I found myself getting more nervous to speak when it was a room full of, if I was the only female in the room, things like that. It was just things I would find myself being more quiet. Even if I knew answers, I would still sometimes, wait for someone else to speak and whatnot. Some of my public speaking classes that I took actually helped me to come out of that shell. I also had a really fantastic manager who, one time after a meeting looked at me and was like, "What the heck are you doing? Like you put this report together. Like, why are you sitting there in silence?" And, I had some great leaders that helped me to I don't want to say break out of my shell because I'm not a shy person. It was just intimidating at the time. And because, there were one or two people that said, "Well, what do you know? You're so young," or are you even out of college yet? Like it really rocked my confidence. So taking some of the learnings from classes, leaning on my manager, doing some additional public speaking classes and trainings helped me to really break out of my shell and not be nervous to speak up. And if I did have someone make a comment to me along the lines of, "What are you, 23? No, actually, I'm 26. I have my MS degree, and the answer to your question is but. And once you kind of set your assertiveness up, of course, being, totally respectful and mindful of the time and whatnot, it helped me, really set my place on the stage, but also it would help some other junior folks come up. And now that I am more senior in my career and I have some of those younger, I hate the word younger, more junior folks in their career setting the stage, I always say to them, "Hey, X, what is your opinion on this?" And if they're nervous to speak, I say, this, we're collaborating, we're working cross-functionally. There's no wrong answer. Like helping others get to where I am now is something I always strive to do too. But I would say that was definitely one of the bigger humps that I had to overcome. And I did so by, like I said, utilizing classes that I took, leaning on my managers for support and, gently putting people in their place when necessary. That's what we have to do sometimes.
I love that self-advocate, even if you feel like no one else is standing up, there's always yourself to stand up for yourself. So, you know more than you think you know. What other cliches can I throw in? But those points are so key that, that confidence, trying to find that. And it could be early on in life or it could be later on in life, but leaning on those connections that you have and just being confident in the knowledge that you do have in your education and the skills that you possess. So I love that. Thank you so much, Jess.
going from the classroom to like the real, like the, the real world and the work, it can be intimidating. And I just want to encourage everybody, like, lean on your support network to help you as you're, developing your workflow. And also, if you say something and you make a mistake, well, we'll just live, like we'll just continue on and on to the next. So yeah.
Perfect. And I did see, Olivia, I saw you nod when Jess started talking. So I'd love to hear your insights on, what career challenges you may have overcome and, methods that you use to do so.
Yeah, I have to kind of laugh. I don't necessarily want to give the exact same answer as Jess, but I think we have had very similar experiences because I think really at the end of the day, to be successful in talent acquisition does require, kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. I think it requires a lot of the same foundational skills as going into something like sales, in that you really are looking to kind of match the candidate that you're looking at with the open role or the open requisition that you have available. You're still looking to kind of deliver that solution to, in this case, the problem being the opening within your company. And I think not necessarily that I struggled to be taken seriously, but I think just having like the friendly, bubbly, accommodating personality that I do, sometimes sort of setting those expectations, whether, it's a candidate for a role who's a little unruly or a hiring manager who likes to go rogue. Sometimes it can be tough to kind of learn to lay out, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are the steps. But I think some things that have been really beneficial are, one, just that I've had really fantastic mentors and managers who have helped me to grow throughout my career so far. But also, I think, again, to mirror what Jess said, some of the things that I learned in some of my courses in SNHU, whether we're talking about, instead of sending an email to someone saying, hey, if you don't mind and it's not too much trouble, can you please, looking back at some of those courses and specific parts of courses talking about efficient business communication and laying down the call to action. Or if you're talking about, like, for example, I think all the time, like a nerdy amount about Cotter's change model, and especially those early stages where you're like building the sense of urgency, where you're laying out the vision for someone of what you're going to accomplish together. I still find myself drawing upon those concepts when I am kind of crafting my messaging to somebody and thinking very deliberately about what I want to say. So Penske's been amazing, but thankfully I also learned a lot of really helpful things in my classes that have helped me to improve upon that.
Fantastic. Yeah, really kind of, I love when you mentioned the effect of that business communication, because it is, there are so many different types of ways to communicate with people. And,
Mhm.
something that may seem direct, it's just efficient. A lot of people are familiar with that method, and, others feel like it's impossible. But just being able to kind of learn the culture of the organization and how to communicate, and being able, again, to advocate for yourself. So I love those insights too, Olivia. And while you're kind of in the spotlight here, that leads me to
Yeah.
my next question, because you mentioned, with the problem is that role you need to fill, right? So can you expand a little bit on like the key roles you recruit for at Penske, and as you're looking at resumes, what skills stand out? A degree or experience or just translatable skills in general stand out to you when you're reviewing those?
Sure. So, as far as some of the roles that I'm, kind of holding in my mind as I come into this particular conversation, one I have in particular is Penske's management trainee program. That is something that's available to anyone that has a bachelor's degree. Essentially, what you're coming in and doing in that program is, I don't want to compare us to another organization because I have not officially had anyone confirm this, but a big one I know that I think is very similar is kind of what they do with Enterprise, where you come in, you learn the business, you're moving up from that management trainee role into like an assistant manager to a branch manager position. Because Penske, of course, like we shared at the beginning, we have over 3,000 locations across the US and over the world, and over 800 just in the US. And of course, we do have our automotive shops, but the majority of those locations are going to be rental locations. So, you come in, you basically learn the foundations of running that branch in that program. If you like what you're doing there, you can, of course, move up and just manage those rental locations. But the beautiful thing about that program is that you can do it full time over after you graduate, or you can do it part time over the course of your studies. But B, it also lends itself to the opportunity to get into anything else that Penske does. That's just baked into it. So So if you go into it and your interest is getting into procurement, into analytics, into accounting, it doesn't even necessarily matter if you have a degree in that area. If it's something you're, passionate about and you realize it's what you'd like to pivot to, by having that foundational business knowledge, you can train and transfer into that. There are, of course, other roles available throughout Penske that I think would be really appealing to this group. We have, a huge accounting department. We have a huge risk management and insurance division. We have an HR department of over 500 employees that includes a lot of remote roles. Those are my people. Shout out to the HR crowd. But yeah, we have a lot of roles that I think would be a fantastic fit for this particular group. And of course, I do look for the educational background. But I think what really just impresses me is somebody who is well-rounded, someone who, of course, has that education, but, don't hesitate, even if you don't necessarily think it's irrelevant. I love to hear about somebody's work experience, to hear about, the clubs that they've been a part of, the projects they've worked on, because what that shows me is that somebody has really translatable skills. You might not necessarily think that like a serving job you held while you were working on your accounting degree is going to be relevant to that entry-level accountant position. But to me, that shows, the ability to be reliable, customer service skills, the ability to think on your feet. It's all great stuff that is really going to matter when you get into that 9 to 5 position. So tell me about it, please. I'd love to know who you are.
That's fantastic. And really pinpointing, kind of looking at the job description, right? And kind of relating like those translatable skills that you talked about, because it's not always 100% obvious, right? When you're thinking about what you want to do, what have I done in the past? What could I do in the future? So I appreciate you pointing that out.
Absolutely.
And I know, Nicole, we've been chatting about, I think on Friday, you talked about a lot of different opportunities coming up with Allstate. So could you share some of those key roles and the skills or experience that you're going to be looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Allstate almost 3 years now, and I can tell you that Allstate is way bigger than I even imagined until I started here. So there's so many different roles right now. We are doing all of our externships and everything. So right now we're hitting the ground running with all of that. This is our peak time. So all of that's out there. We hire for all kinds of things. I hire for all different roles: accounting, IT, customer service. We're looking for adjusters, if that's something that you ever thought about getting into. Inside adjusters, outside adjusters, property adjusters. I mean, you name it. I will tell you, I wish I would have known about adjusters when I was fresh out of college, because to go be a CAT adjuster, which is a catastrophe adjuster, and go travel the US and get all of those airline miles and hotel, can you imagine how many free vacations you would be taking during that process? So, I mean, we hire all kinds of different things. All the jobs are out there on our career site. As far as skills and stuff that we're looking for, if getting your property and casualty license or your adjuster's license is something that you want to do while you're in school, that's always an option that's going to give you a little bit more perks coming in. We do a lot of sign-on bonuses when you already have those licenses. But even if you don't, we always pay for you to get those licenses too. So, and the other thing that consider is, even if you finished up your bachelor's degree and you're thinking about getting your MBA, Allstate does pay for tuition. So that's a great way to go ahead and get your foot in the door and have Allstate pay for that MBA that you're getting. So that's always an idea too. But definitely a foot in the door can get you, the sky's the limit.
That's fantastic. And really, leveraging those benefits to your benefit. And, as you're developing with the company, there's so many different programs that are there, to help you grow that knowledge. So again, I appreciate you pointing that out. And it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity with Allstate. So I shared the handshake link there, and you had mentioned traveling the United States as part of that with the CAT adjuster. So that only naturally leads me to Khadijah, who's sitting on an airplane here. If you could share a little bit about your key roles that you recruit for, Khadijah, and some of those key skills or experience that you look for.
Yeah, for sure. So, I know when everybody thinks about an airline, they think about pilots and flight attendants. we do have a very large operational workforce, but of course we need roles that support those work groups as well. And so pretty much anything that you could think of in terms of just a career, we probably have it at Southwest, and probably some things that you haven't thought of before. So, I mean, we need analysts, we need accountants, we need strategists. In tech ops, we obviously do all of the maintenance for our airplanes, but then we also have planners that we hire that help plan our maintenance. We have engineers. We have a whole business intelligence department, and all they do is like workforce analysis, analysis on our planes and depreciation and all of that stuff. So literally anything you could think of, we probably have at Southwest. We have schedulers, all kinds of stuff. I would say the really cool thing about Southwest, and one of the reasons why I was really passionate about coming to work for the company, is if you look at our C-suite, a lot of our executives started out in entry-level roles, like throwing bags on the ramp, and then have just worked their way up. And so I think that's a testament to Southwest and how much Southwest invests in their employees. You'll see, I've never worked at a company where you see people with such long tenures. You'll see people that have been there for, 20 years, 30 years, and they've just rotated around the company, found things that they were interested in, built those relationships, and then eventually found an opportunity to move into that space. So Southwest is a great place for you to build your career. I would say for me on my end, what I'm typically looking for, well, just in general with Southwest, we always say that we're not a airline, we're a hospitality company. And so hospitality is very, very important to us. So we're looking for people who are naturally hospitable, who have that servant's heart in them, and want to be of service. We're notorious for just kind of jumping in and helping, no matter what, So, I mean, if I'm at the airport traveling to go see a customer one day and, there's a holdup with baggage or something, I'm going to jump in and say, hey, guys, do you need my help? And so that's the kind of person and personality that we're looking for. But other than that, it's really going to depend on what you're interested in. But I think as long as, you have that foundation of hospitality, and then you have experience or transferable experience that you can speak to, depending on the role that you're applying for, we would love to talk to you and give you an opportunity to join an amazing company. I'll also say we also get to fly for free. So that's an amazing perk if anybody's interested. So, it's the best company, honestly, I've ever worked for. I love it. It's probably going to be my last job, and if they'll have me that long. And yeah, if anybody's interested, definitely reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about Southwest careers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Khadijah. And I love the mention that you talked about kind of the internal mobility there too, because I started myself at SNHU in admission, and now I'm in my role here with career services. So it's all about, no role is too small to at least get your foot in the door, right? And
Absolutely.
learn the culture. And then as you progress, you can develop, you have that experience, all the systems. So
Yep.
that's so amazing. And
Yeah,
of course,
for
all the
sure.
great benefits along with, any role that you have. And,
Yeah.
and I saw, Jess, you mentioned in the chat about some of Samsara's opportunities, being remote. And I'd love to hear some more about key roles that you recruit for and what you look for in candidates for those opportunities.
Absolutely. So Samsara is a remote first company. 95% of our roles are remote. And the majority of them at this stage at this point in time, are really across North America and a couple spots in EMEA. But North America is the big place where we've been hiring. And that does include Canada, the United States, Mexico, and then all the surrounding islands, because I had seen someone say they were in the Caribbean, and we do have the opportunity to hire folks in those locations. The roles that I recruit for now, I do executive recruiting. So I do director level and above on the marketing side. So I don't believe that the roles I personally recruit for would be a fit just yet for y'all, because we're coming up on new grads. That being said, though, I did link the website in the chat. We have over 500 open roles right now at all different levels. We have an intern program, and we also have an early in career, and we call it emerging talent positions too, for brand new grads with zero experience, and then up to, I think it's a year and a half of experience. We definitely have that. And then what I would just like to say is that if there is a role on the website that you are interested in, please don't hesitate to ping me on LinkedIn, and you can just reference like, hey, Jess, I was one of the attendees of the SNHU business chat, like business meeting. I'd be happy to refer you in somewhere. I will say that referrals tend to go, especially in some of those newer roles where we've got, 500 plus applicants, referrals do get reviewed quicker. So I would be happy to do that for you. I can't guarantee anything other than I'll get you in front of the right recruiter, but I'll at least try like heck. And I'm happy to partner with anyone for any role that is exciting for them. So. And just, Dana, to answer your question, like what types of candidates I look for, while yes, I'm doing director level recruiting now, but I haven't always done, I'm always looking for clear and concise resumes that clearly showcase, metrics, numbers that have been met and exceeded, showcasing any impact that you yourself made. Like I look for I statements on resumes, like I implemented a new program that did X. I worked cross-functionally with the leadership team to do X and Y, and this was the end result. Like resumes that clearly showcase your career successes are the ones that I'm excited to read. We see a lot of fluffy resumes with really great adjectives and verbs on it. That's so great. But I want to know what you yourself did and the impact that you yourself made. And the resumes that showcase that, regardless of any level, are what I'm looking for. And I don't want anyone who is junior in their career to be, thinking like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't have real corporate experience. I do not care if you were an ice cream scooper. Like I want you to showcase on that resume that you could scoop, 10 scoops in under 20 seconds, and you could get customers in and out the door in under a minute. Like I want to see those metrics, those numbers. Yes, Mark, exactly what you just put in the chat. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So please don't ever be thinking like, oh, I don't have that real world experience. I want to see any experience, and you can highlight your successes regardless of what you've done.
That's fantastic, and really quantifying. And I know that's something that SNHU career advisors definitely talk about in doing those resume reviews, is how you can quantify your experience, and then any of that qualitative can be covered in your cover letter or of course in the interview. So really getting that point across. And I'm so glad to hear that from someone in seat as well, and looking at resumes, all day, like on the executive level too. So that's fantastic.
Dana, can I say one more thing? You had just mentioned,
of course, sure.
You had just mentioned cover letters. I just want to be transparent with everybody. There are certain jobs that do require a cover letter. The majority of them are like some type of content creation, like where you are writing in your job. A lot of the times, if it's not a job where you are like I said, creating content, whatnot, cover letters get overlooked. So anything that you were going to highlight in that cover letter, make sure it's on that resume, because I want to see that impact. I want to see those quantifiable results. I want to see those numbers and things of that nature. Don't be afraid. Like if you want to submit a cover letter, fantastic, but make sure that whatever is being highlighted on the cover letter is also clearly highlighted on the resume.
That's key advice. Thank you so much, Jess, for clarifying that and including that tidbit too, because I know it depends on certain employers, and it's always good to hear straight from those that are looking at the applications in general. So I'm so glad to hear that maybe that's a trend in the business realm there. So certainly appreciate it. And I know we are about 15 minutes till, so I want to thank you all for the answers to our little starter questions here, just to get everyone kind of connected and making some points. I did see some specific questions in the chat for certain panelists, so I'd love to pass it over to our career advisor, Jen Langley, to facilitate the questions from students coming in the chat. So Jen, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So I have, I tried to keep up with as many as I could with the specific panelists that they were looking for. But some of the general questions, we had Natalia ask, when changing careers from working in the field to managing in the field, what is your advice for personal rebranding? How do you change your resume or reshape your story? And this can go to any of our panelists.
I'm happy to take that one. So I think the key thing would be if that's your vision, I would start now, not wait until there's an opportunity that's available for you. So making sure that you're intentional about building those relationships, finding out, for the leaders in the group that you want to work for, finding out what they're looking for. And then, as Jess said, making sure that you're able to quantify the results of whatever it is that you were doing before. A lot of times when you're moving from like a field position to maybe like a leadership role, it's less important what you do, but more important that you can showcase that you can think strategically, because that's the kind of work that you're going to be doing as you continue to move up in leadership. And so being able to illustrate that on your resume, I think is going to be really important. And then, like I said, relationships really, really do matter. So make sure that you're not waiting until a position pops up to start building that relationship with that team or that leader. If you're interested in moving in that direction, make sure that you are communicating with them now. I'm setting up, coffee chats, or, seeing if you can even go and shadow, letting them know, and that that's on your radar and that's your goal, I think will really be beneficial in helping you get there. Oh, you're on mute, Jess. One of us is going to do it. Yeah. I thought it was going to be me.
The dog over here. Sorry about that. Khadijah, I completely agree with you. And one other thing that I would point out, especially for someone who's trying to either pivot careers or, like you were talking about the rebranding, or just coming into finding a job in the corporate environment, don't hesitate to use LinkedIn as a real tool. I cannot tell you, especially when I've done some like early in career recruiting, where candidates will reach out to a hiring manager on LinkedIn and they don't have any actual experience yet, but they say, I just graduated with my MBA. I worked full time and was a single mom of 2 kids while getting my MBA. I'm detail oriented. I have strong project management skills, like highlighting things that they have done and basically ending with, hey, if you'll give me a chance, you won't be disappointed. I have pushed numerous people like that through the process that have in turn gotten jobs. And it's just going above and beyond and showcasing to somebody like why you deserve to be hired. So for anyone who's looking to rebrand, take a look on LinkedIn and see if you can find, the leader of the team, the hiring manager, somebody who is like in the HR department or anything, just to showcase to them, hey, I want to work here. I may not have X or Y, but I do have A, B, and C. And if you give me a shot, you won't be disappointed. It sets you apart from the rest of the crowd that's simply blind applying.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's see. Kirsten is wondering, do you have any advice on how to stand out to get your first job in a new field? She is going from orthodontic assisting to accounting. So she's making a big career jump, and she wants to know if you have any advice on how to stand out.
Jennifer, would you repeat that for me? You faded out for part of it, and I tried to put it all together, but I missed something there.
We're having some crazy storms here. I'm sorry. Kirsten wants to know if you have any advice on how to stand out to get your first job in a brand new field. She's going from orthodontic assisting to accounting, so she's making that huge career jump.
Looks like Olivia might want to.
Yeah, so what I always tell people when they ask me this question is that I think it's really going to go back to what I was saying about transferable skills, but I'd like to tie that to kind of Jess's point and the formula we talked about, where it's like accomplished X by, doing Y. I think that's a really great way to do that. So the example that comes into my mind, and someone had even asked about how to do this with volunteer experience in the chat, is, say, for example, you're applying for a project management position, but for the past 10 years, you've been out of the workforce, but maybe you've been doing volunteer experience or volunteer work. Well, if you can talk to me about how that, for example, the animal shelter you worked at needed like X number of bags of dog food to keep all the animals fed or whatever it is, talk to me about how you actually took the time to figure out what resources you need, figured out what the monetary cost was, planned how you were going to get that money, pulled together members of the organization to, take on the effort to obtain those resources that you needed, organizing the charity drive or the sale or the fundraiser or whatever it was to acquire those funds, and give me the metrics to show, how much of it you accomplished, how close did you come to your goal, how far did you go over your goal. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I did a junior project manager position and now I'm applying to be a project manager. Truly read the description on that position and the skills that it tells you you're going to need to have. If you've applied them in whatever experience that you do have, that's why I always say kind of same thing. I don't care if you were scooping ice cream and you're applying to be an accountant. I want to hear about it. Just talk to me about how you use those foundational skills that you're looking to apply in your next role, in your current role. Like, I'd love to hear about all of it. And I think that's a great way to showcase yourself.
I would
Nicole, you
like
want
to
to chime in?
Yeah, I just want to add. So something I've always learned was have a resume for each position that you want to apply to. You don't use the same exact resume for every single job that you apply for. So you want to make sure that your skills from all the different positions you have relate to that specific job that you're applying for. And that's what's going to help. So like everyone's saying, you're the ice cream scooper, but you want to be an accountant. How does accounting, being an ice cream scooper, what did you do that justifies being an accountant? Also, if you're making that huge of a change, also make sure that you're going in with the mindset that you're willing to get your foot in the door to show yourself, improve yourself. Don't think that you're going to go and be a director of accounting. So you got to get your foot in the door to get that experience, to understand the business and build yourself up. So you got to make sure that you're in that mindset as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Hopping on. So James was wondering, and I love this question. He wants to know, just out of curiosity, how much of accounting is involved in HR?
That's a great question. So
I can do any accounting on purpose. To be clear.
Or we call it HR math.
Yeah. No, so there is some accounting principles that you would apply in HR, at least I do in my role. So I have a team of recruiters that are kind of spread out, and they do a lot of traveling to conduct their interviews. And so I do have to keep track of how much they're spending, budgets, thinking about what I need to, what I might need next year, making sure I get that to the right people so that they can put it in our budget for next year, projecting, we did this many interviews this year, we're going to have to increase to this many interviews next year. So how much money am I going to need for that? So again, I by no means am a financial expert. I don't know that I did that great in any of the financial classes at Southern New Hampshire, but again, just knowing enough to be able to speak the language, or even to know who to call when you need help, I think is important.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, did you want to hop in?
I was just gonna say, like, in every job, like there is some element of math. Like I said, I don't do any accounting, and in reality, like I stay away from like Excel sheets and things like that. But when I'm calculating offer letters and things like that, like we do use it. I would say it's probably less than 5% for my specific recruiter only focused role. And I like it that way.
Oh, let's see. Okay, we get a question from William. William said he has his MBA in project management. He kind of wants to know what opportunities there are for project managers.
Yeah, I mean, we hire project manager. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Olivia.
I'm sorry. I just, like I said, not super assertive. I'm always worried to interrupt people. Project management is probably one of my favorite degrees to see, just because, and of course, I can't speak to whether every company is this way, but at Penske, it is so heavily sought after in really all of our different divisions. So whether you're talking about, for example, our accounting team, and maybe you're looking to lead, or our accounting department, and you're going to lead a team of specialists who specifically focus on the tax regulations around our vehicles and the fact that they're, moving between states and are subject to different jurisdictions regulations, or you're talking about, our engineering team and the different subdivisions of that engineering team and the projects they work on, or, you can be talking about really anything that Penske does. We tend to be, as an organization, a very I guess task oriented company where we tend to break everything that we do down into projects. So I think that's a fantastic degree to have. It really depends on what it is that you're interested in. So whether it's, procurement, vehicles, accounting, whatever it is you're passionate about, I think even just searching that keyword on a lot of companies' jobs website, project management, I think that's something you're going to find in a lot of requisitions. And I think if you have that degree and you can just touch upon even a little bit, some of the other things that you're looking for in whatever position kind of catches your eye. I think that's a great degree to be starting from.
Yeah, I would piggyback off of everything Olivia said. And I'll say, even for me, I'm working on a project within my department right now to support one of my customers, and I need a project manager to help me stay organized and on task. So we have project managers in pretty much every department working on some level. So yeah, I think that's a great career to be trying to get into for sure.
Khadijah, that's what I was going to say. Like, project management is spread across the whole, or like all organizations. Like, it's not a one-stop shop. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Like, I have project managers on the recruiting operations team that do completely different things than what project managers do on our creative teams. Like, folks that have the PM degrees are the ones that are like uber detail oriented, focused, like can do that cross. Organized. Yes, I need one in my personal and professional life.
Same.
But like that's a degree that can get spread across so many different business units and industries as well.
Awesome. Want to flip roles a little bit into a different type of question. Kimberly had asked, she said, I'm in a leadership role now at a restaurant, but I'm wanting to move out of this role and more into the office field. But I'm having issues getting interviews. She's on LinkedIn and she wants to know if you all have any suggestions to what she might look to do to get help getting interviews. So it sounds like she's having a hard time getting those interviews.
I would say Jess already gave the answer earlier, like making sure that you're tailoring your resume to the job that you want is really important. When a hiring manager or recruiter is looking at your resume, even if they don't understand or haven't been in your world before, they want to see what those transferable skills are. So I think following the advice that Jess gave, I think is a great way to kind of give yourself some help. And then also I would say be mindful about the careers and the opportunities that you're applying for as well. Nicole said it a little bit earlier, you may be getting, for example, a career or getting a degree in project management. That doesn't mean you're going to be a project manager leader coming straight out of school. You're going to have to, kind of come in, get your foot in the door and work your way up. So don't be afraid to do that. I think if you have a great work ethic and you have a vision for your career and where you want to go and you're strategic about it, coming in on the ground floor and working your way up, I think that's only going to make you better as you continue to move up because you've seen it from all levels. So don't be afraid to take a job to get your foot in the door just to get started.
Restaurant work, in my opinion, is something that translate very well to like a junior administrative assistant or an executive assistant. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name of the person that asked that question, but please definitely feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to take a look at your resume. I mean, some of the best EAs that I've ever known, worked in the restaurant industry, managing, like a 20-person section during peak business hours, knowing the whole menu back and forth, being able to run tables, get drinks. Like there are very marketable ways that you can put that you are a server or bartender on a resume to showcase how you would make a wonderful administrative assistant somewhere. And just like Khadijah said, starting out as a junior admin, like that's the way to go. Honestly, y'all, when I was in college, like I worked at a restaurant and my first job out of school was as an administrative assistant. So like it transfers very, very well. And I'll be quiet. I just at times, sorry. I get real passionate and I get all excited.
No problem at all, Jess. We certainly appreciate everyone's time and in respect of your time. And again, I want to give you a huge virtual round of applause if anyone wants to do the react button in Teams and give our fabulous panelists just a huge thank you for your time, your insights, sharing your experience and your stories. We really have enjoyed it throughout the evening tonight. And it is now 7 o'clock. I do want to leave our attendees with just a little bit of homework, I guess, if I can. And as far as the networking piece, of course, we have SNHU alumni here that are such great resources with knowledge being in the talent acquisition and human resources space. So if you already have a LinkedIn or if you need help creating one, don't hesitate to reach out to the SNHU Career Services team. But check out linkedin.com. A great way to search is type in a job title of interest in that search bar, select the people category, and you can add a filter to find other SNHU students or alumni just by adding that Southern New Hampshire University filter in there. So find a contact if it's one of our panelists today, or if it's a new contact in a different role, and request to connect. You can add a note when you request to connect. Just say, I'm also an SNHU student or alumni. I'd love to learn more from you about your career path. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people are certainly willing to help out in that way and help you grow. We also have an SNHU community LinkedIn group that you're encouraged to join and connect with others in the SNHU community. So that's your homework, if you wouldn't mind. It's of course optional. I'm not going to report back, but again, thank you to our panelists. And I will be sharing a recording link. If you're interested, you can email engagecareer@snhu.edu. We'll send you that recording link. And again, everyone, thank you so much for your time this evening and have a great rest of your Monday. We have 2 more events tomorrow at 1 o'clock and Wednesday at 5:30. So check those out on Handshake and we'll see you soon. Thank you all again.
Bye, y'all.